In this Monday with more evacuations from Ukraine. The State Department has closed the U.S. Embassy in Belarus and is now allowing non-essential staff at the U.S. Embassy in Russia to leave the country due to the war in Ukraine. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announcing the suspension of operations at the Minsk embassy and the authorized departure from Moscow in a statement today. As the Russian invasion stretches into its fifth day, the UN estimates more than 500,000 people have already fled to safety. They are being met with blankets, open arms, and at one crossing, a hot meal from a celebrity chef. Reporter Riley Carlson has that story.
These are bittersweet reunions for people fleeing Ukraine. Happy to see friends and family, but devastated to leave home. Many of those coming to Poland are packing onto trains with only the possessions they can carry. Some people were standing for 3 days because they couldn't get a seat, says this woman who traveled from Kyiv.
The people don't stop arriving. People are cold, families are cold.
World-renowned chef and humanitarian Jose Andres has brought his World Central Kitchen to the Polish border. They're serving thousands of hot meals at several crossings in Poland and Romania. The effort is also supporting chefs inside Odessa, Ukraine, where fighting is underway.
There's many ways to fight. Some people fight just making sure that people are fed.
Those who've made it out are hearing it's getting more difficult to leave.
When we are crossing, there was maybe 100, 200 person, but right now it's maybe 3,000 person.
And they worry about those staying behind.
Every kid's crying. Because they left their father.
They'll try to stay in touch and hope the war ends soon. Riley Carlson, CBS News, London.
Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Union is preparing to grant Ukrainians who flee the war the right to stay and work for up to 3 years. It's also sending help to border countries to help with arrivals. Ukraine's resistance is getting a big boost from the response of the President Zelensky. The former actor is inspiring confidence in his troops while securing weapons, money, and strategic help from the country's many allies. He told Russian soldiers this morning, "Don't trust your propaganda. Just save your lives and leave." Zelensky has posted numerous videos to social media from the streets of Ukraine to reassure his people that he's still in the country.
Тут ніяку зброю ми не складемо. Будемо захищати нашу державу, тому що наша.
President Zelensky has become an inspiration for those protesting this invasion around the world and for the Ukrainian resistance. He reportedly turned down a U.S. offer to help him evacuate, saying, "I need ammunition, not a ride." But there are also grave fears for President Zelensky's safety. He says he and his young family are Russia's top targets. There was a blue and yellow show of support in downtown Fargo overnight. City Hall will be lit up in the colors of Ukraine for the next few nights. A few blocks away, along the top of the new Gateway apartment complex just east of 4th Street and Main Avenue, are blue and yellow lights streaming around the building. And in Grand Forks, the Alara Center is lit up. Officials there are also saying they're removing all Russian vodka from their bars and catering menus for the foreseeable future. On the weather now, well, what a way to start out the work week. Temps climbing into the mid-30s. Let's check in with Hutch to find out if that's going to continue. Hutch?
Soggy streets, but they're welcome across the area as we have endured a brutal last few weeks of weather. Right now, a look at your high temperatures so far, 20s north. For many, we had 30 to 40 degrees down south as we began some snow melting of our snowbanks here in the Southern Valley. Traffic moving along smooth, and it is slushy out there on area roads. Here's a look at your temperatures. Right now, there's that white line. That's the freezing line. Up north, we're below freezing, holding into the 20s for most. Teens Langdon to Hallock, and how about 40s to near 50s in South Dakota? Here's a storm system brewing out over the Pacific Northwest. This is our next weather maker. It gets here as we head into the weekend. And in the meantime, we're going to have a few Alberta Clippers dive through as well. So our wintry weather does return, so take advantage of tonight while you can. Temperatures will slide into the teens with cloudy skies yielding a few snowflakes for some by morning, and another round of snow in the afternoon and evening hours tomorrow. But first, here's a look at the storm system working its way out of the Pacific Northwest. Mike, as it works its way over the Rocky Mountains, Saturday and Sunday look to be the days of highest impact here in the Northern Plains. I'll have hour by hour details on this and what we have to look forward to until the weekend coming up in a moment.
All right, thanks, Hutch. We now know the names of the person involved in a home invasion and an officer-involved shooting Sunday in Grand Forks County. Grand Forks Sheriff's officials say they were first called to a car crash just before 11:30 in the morning. Deputies say the driver of that car, 37-year-old Joseph Espinozi, then broke into a house on the 800 block of 10th Street Northeast. They say the homeowner fired shots at Espinoza, but he eventually took the gun and fired shots himself. 2 people inside were not shot, but suffered minor injuries. Investigators say 2 deputies, Corporal Brandon Rapotsky and a 12-year veteran and deputy Dustin Wadholm, who are still field training, arrived at the home and Espinoza trying to steal the homeowner's pickup. After Espinoza pointed a gun at the deputies, they fired, hitting him in the leg. Espinoza was treated with non-life-threatening injuries. Charges still have not been filed, while the North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation looks into the matter. New at 4 for you today, a Leonard man is behind bars after police say he shoplifted, robbed a man, and then threatened to kill him with a torque wrench. Police say Friday around 5 p.m., a 19-year-old was leaving his job at O'Reilly's when 31-year-old Isaac Swiftbird got in the vehicle, demanded money, punched the teen, and threatened him with the wrench. Police say Swiftbird was too drunk to give them a statement, and they found stolen items for both O'Reilly's Auto Parts and the Come and Go on Swiftbird after he was arrested. He faces multiple felony and misdemeanor charges. A man's in jail accused of arson after authorities say he tried setting someone's house on fire over the weekend. It happened in Polk County, where sheriff's investigators arrested 37-year-old Roger Passa of Crookston Saturday night after the fire in Mentor, Minnesota. The homeowner wasn't home at the time. No injuries have been reported. Fire crews say there's moderate damage to that home. The Minnesota State Patrol has identified the woman who died in a crash in Otter Tail County. The 19-year-old was a victim. 19-year-old Grace Olson of Barnesville was identified as the victim. Troopers say she was driving a car on Highway 210 east of Fergus Falls just after midnight yesterday when she collided with a truck carrying 9 people. David Moan of Henning was driving the truck. He and 3 passengers were hurt. Still no word from State Patrol yet about what caused that crash. Bernie Dardis likes what he's doing, so much so that the West Fargo mayor says he's running for a second term. Dardis is a longtime West Fargo resident. The West Fargo mayoral election is June 14th. Also up for election are positions on the City Commission, Public School Board, Park Board, and Municipal Court Judge. Climate change is expected to get much worse in the next 18 years, according to a new United Nations science report. The panel of more than 200 scientists in the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that there is a, quote, brief and rapidly closing window of opportunity to secure a livable and sustainable future for all. The report says that we should expect 4 to 5 times as many floods, storms, heat waves, and droughts by the year 2100, calling it an atlas of human suffering. The scientists add that rising oxygen-depleted oceans could be a major problem. The U.S. Supreme Court is hearing a case brought by the leaders of 19 mostly Republican-led states and coal companies over the Environmental Protection Agency's authority to limit carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. Right now, there is no EPA plan to limit power plant greenhouse gas emissions, but the group is hoping to prevent one from ever happening. Back in 2016, the court blocked the Obama administration's Clean Power Plan, which would have required states to reduce emissions from the generation of electricity. A decision on this latest case is expected by late June. Jury selection is underway in the trial of a Texas man arrested in connection to the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. Guy Wesley Riffett is charged with invading the Capitol with a holstered handgun on his waist. He's also charged with interfering with police officers and threatening his children not to report him to authorities afterwards. Riffett faces up to 20 years in prison for each count of obstruction and 10 years for entering with a firearm. That trial could set the tone for other riot cases.